What do you want to manifest? Well, a lot of people want to manifest money, but did you know that there are a lot of other ways to be abundant? And I have 5 of them for you. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because everybody messages me and says they want to win the lottery. And I've done live streams on the lottery. And I even interviewed Timothy Schultz, who spoke about money and happiness because he won $28 million in the Powerball. Because everyone, I did a video and the comments were hot. So I thought, you know what? Let's get someone who won that crazy amount of money and can talk about money and happiness. Now, if you want to know how he won and all those stories, I didn't talk to him about that because he has a whole channel that you can go and listen to for the lottery information about his story and how he won. He interviews other winners. There's other winners that have manifested their win. Some of them have even credited Helene Hadsel for their inspiration, specifically Cynthia Stafford. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. And she won $112 million using the Helene Speck method. So hopefully one day I can have her as a guest here on the show. But today I'm doing something that I have been meaning to do for a long time and I haven't, and that is have a giveaway. If you saw, I did a recent short. I was at the thrift store. I always scan the books, and I found a lot of metaphysical books, and I bought them all, a huge pile. And the first one I'm giving away is a vintage Think and Grow Rich. Sometimes the vintage editions are better. Which year is this one from? This is this one's from 1960. This is a 1960 copy. Oh, my apologies. This is from the first Ballantine Books edition, January 1963. So this vintage books are fantastic. Sometimes I've even bought used books. Now this one doesn't have any, but I have found bookmarks, cards, notes, coupons, different things people have used as bookmarks, annotations. This one doesn't have any of those, but it does have a little thing because it was in somebody's library at one point. And so it's always interesting to find those vintage books. So I'm giving this one away, and you just have to enter in the description. There is a RoboForm link, and you go there and you fill out the entry form, and you're in to win. It's easy peasy, and you have a week. And I'm going to start doing it every time because I am the contest queen after all. And I couldn't be the contest queen if I didn't give away prizes. So that's where the beauty of being the contest queen comes to the Words for Winning, appropriately enough, channel. Also, I teamed up with Book Throne. How appropriate is that? And we're giving away a 12-month Audible subscription and a $250 Amazon gift card and a whole heap of Audible books. So head over to either my Facebook page, or if you got my newsletter, the link's there. And I'll be sharing the link on YouTube and TikTok shortly. So there's lots of places. And if you just search Book Throne, actually, I'm teamed up on their Audible one. If you like books, they're always having giveaways. So they're a great resource for free books. Now, let's talk about abundance. Okay? Like I said, you want to win the lottery because you think that's the answer to manifesting your dreams. Oh, somebody posted this comment. I have to stop. Look at this. I found a $1 million bill in the book the other day that Helene recommended, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. I already have Helene's book. That is fantastic. I've never found a bill like that in any of the books that I've ever bought vintage. So that is quite the find. that might be telling you something. But one of the other metaphysical teachers I really like is a channeler. His name is Daryl Anka, and he channels Bashar, which is a version of his higher self in the future, because everything is just happening now. And he said there's 5 forms of abundance. Money, obvious. But then we also have gifts and trade. Then ideas and synchronicities. Now, a lot of us might not think that ideas and synchronicities are abundance, but they are. And I will have some examples for you on that. So let's go through each one of the forms of abundance so you can see how you can get it. Now, I think the one people get stuck on is money, because that's the form of trade, basically, that we've agreed upon. In the past, we would barter, someone, I would be, say, a butcher, and I would have, somebody would bring in their sheep or their cow. I would butcher it. I would keep some as the fee for butchering the meat. I could trade some of that meat to the baker for some bread. That's how people used to live. Everybody bartered. Some people could sew, cut hair, weave wool, lots of things. Everybody would trade, and they would have a whole community, and that's how the whole community would survive. Instead, we have made it so we have money, and we have said, I should have brought money with me, but I didn't think to. We've agreed on this, piece of paper, or these coins would have a value, and we could take that value and trade it for money. So we have our value, and we accumulate the dollars, and then we go trade them for other value. And that way we're not tied to one community or one particular type of trade. We can buy anything with it. It makes it much easier. However, it comes with all kinds of attachments and mythologies around it, and taboos, and all kinds of things that we've tied up around this thing we've called money. I've done Tag Powell's book. I should have put one of his banners up today, called Money and You. And he had an audio series called Instant Money. And, we have to listen to, one of the things he says right at the beginning of the book is we have to listen to our inner talk with money. Like, how do we approach money? If money was like a person, Ken Honda does this in Happy Money, personify the money. So and Amy Jo Ellis also does this in her book, Making Peace with Money. If you were talking to money as if it was a person, how do you feel about it? Are you angry with it? Are you stingy with it? Do you not want to share it with anybody? Are you mad when it doesn't show up? Are you saying to yourself, money only grows on trees? Well, then why is it going to show up for you? Oh, poor baby. Who's the poor baby? Look at what words you use around money and how you use that, because they had Lady Gaga's, I just did a video on this too. Lady Gaga just released a song, Abracadabra. What does abracadabra actually translate to? I create what I speak. So what are you saying? What vibrations are you sending out? I never have enough money. Ooh, you can feel the energy in that. I mean, me just doing it as a teacher, demonstrating, I can feel it. How about I always have more than I need? Oh, do you feel how much lighter that is? I should have written out Bob Proctor's one about the ease of flow. So money, we need to really look at how we deal with money and how we relate to it and how we connect to it. and what we think about it and what our relationship with money is. And, what do we want to do with it? There's a fella, and you can also trust the process and go with the flow and see that abundance shows up. So, for example, there's a fella. Now, there's lots of people doing his kind of adventure, but he's got traction because of the, kind of the hero's journey behind it. He was stuck in a job he didn't like, and then he found out he had a health crisis. And he thought, what am I doing? I'm living in this box. I hate it. I don't like my job. I've been told, I don't know, I think it was some kind of bone thing. I don't know the exact diagnosis and how long he could live, or if his health would just deteriorate over time, or what it was. But he's like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. And he quit his job, cashed out his 401k. So it was all his retirement savings. And he decided his thing was he wanted to sail around the world by himself. So he's not the first one to do it. He won't be the last. But why he got so popular was he gave people hope that they could break out of the box and they could break out of the system. So now he doesn't have any income, and he gets on, and he took a year off, and he learned to sail. So he didn't even know how to sail before this. He bought a boat, he was fixing it up, and he learned to sail. And a month ago, he left Oregon, and he started documenting his journey, and people started following him in droves, to the point where Microsoft and their new AI program, Copilot, appropriately named for this juncture, sponsored him and hired him as an influencer. And so he made money in the middle of the ocean. And he's got a ton of followers, so he's making money from his TikToks, and I'm assuming he has a YouTube channel. I haven't checked that out, but you can also make money on YouTube. He's got a sponsor. And then the craziest thing happened just before he got to Hawaii. He notices a plane. The plane drops something out of it. He gets his package, and he realizes it's a PR package from Elf Cosmetics, and they sent him I think some of the daughters of the executives put in like little notes, and he thought it was from them originally. And then he realized it was Elf Cosmetics, but they sent snacks and fresh food. So he had some like Subway sandwiches or something, or Jersey Mike's or one of those, fresh, because he's been on this boat for a month. And what a crazy PR stunt in the middle of the ocean. He's literally, things are literally falling out of the sky for him. Literally falling out of the sky. He got fresh food dropped from a plane. And we sit here and try to manifest things and wonder how stuff, stop wondering. He's just doing his thing, being his authentic self, following his dream, and stuff is showing up. And that's how we're supposed to manifest. We're not supposed to worry about how it's going to come or where it's going to come from. We just have to keep being ourselves and going with the flow and enjoying the adventure, even when there's hard parts, which we will talk about. And you will be amazed at what shows up. So by the time he got to Hawaii, the Coast Guard came out to meet him and guide him in. His boat was coming into the marina, and there was the Hawaiian canoes. They're guiding him in. There was a huge party for him. The mayor showed up. He's treated like a king. So he's going to rest for a bit because it's very hard. And then he's going to go on another leg. And, look at this. This is a great example. Kay says, I've asked for things and people have knocked on my door with whatever I wanted a few times. I heard a really funny story once. Now, I don't know if they're still together, but this girl was a serious introvert and she hardly ever went out. And her mother said, you have to go out. You need to meet people. She didn't want her daughter to be single. She says, you have to go out and meet people. You're never going to get married. Like if you just stay in the house all the time. Anyway, it ended up her roommate moved out and she was looking for a new roommate. And this fella ended up showing up and she's like, don't know if I want to live with a guy, but I'll interview you, because she needed somebody to help pay the rent. And they hit it off and they became friends. And so he moved in. And then eventually things took a turn and they ended up married. And so she told the story of, look, I didn't even have to leave my apartment. He literally walked in the front door. Her mother was worried, and she didn't have to be. He just showed up. He literally showed up. Right? She says, I did it twice in 1 week. Same person, and you're an introvert. Same, right? So you don't always need to worry about where it's going to show up. And that ties to the last points about the ideas and the synchronicity, right? Like Oliver had the idea, and he took a big risk. He cashed out his 401k, bought a boat, had to learn how to sail. But all those things started to align for him. Like he found, a boat that for a fair price that needed repair that he could work on. So he found his vessel, and then, he found the right teachers who helped him prepare for this big journey. Now he still had to put in the work. The boat didn't fix itself. He didn't learn to sail magically overnight through osmosis. He took the lessons. He put in the work. But that's how that's part of the journey. If everything you ever wanted always showed up at once, it wouldn't be any fun. This is why Helene called it the name it and claim it game. It's a game, and it's supposed to be fun, and it's not supposed to always be easy. That's why we like board games. We don't know who's going to win. We don't know what the roll of the dice is going to be. We don't know what challenges we're going to face. We don't know what cards are going to be dealt. We don't know. That's part of the fun. Right? If we went to the movies and Indiana Jones went in the temple and he got the idol and he went like this and he put the sand down and it was perfect and he left, that would be the end of the movie. No fun whatsoever. We're there because, and he's running and he gets away, and then there's another obstacle and another obstacle and another challenge and another obstacle. Guess what? We love that when it's a movie. We hate it when it's our life. Right? But that's the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be an adventure. It's supposed to have ups and downs and challenges. Right? Oh, you think you're in the wrong spot. You're in the wrong spot. No, you're always where you need to be. I'm talking about the 5 ways, 5 different forms of abundance is what I'm talking about. So we're just talking about money and how it doesn't always have to be money, and you don't have to always wonder about it. And the second one is gifts, right? Like we just had a comment. Kay was saying she asked for things and they showed up. I assume they were either gifts or trade. They weren't money. People can show up with all kinds of gifts. They can give gift of their time, their knowledge, their skill set. Like, for example, a neighbor might teach you how to knit. So now you have this skill that's the gift of their time and knowledge. That could be a gift. Someone could just show up today with flowers. I did a whole TikTok on that. I did a little bit of mental texting, and George showed up with flowers on Valentine's Day. Yeah, she says, I've so many stories wishcrafting all my life, many experiences, many regarded as unbelievable, but it's so not it's easy peasy. Yeah, but also it's fun because you have the challenge of it, right? Ooh, I wonder what else I can manifest, and I wonder how it's going to show up. It's when I'm teaching people how to win giveaways, right? There's another form. It's not, well, you could win money, but you can win stuff that money can't buy and adventures you can go on, right? I just won my 23rd trip this year. We went to the Kingston, Canada Film Festival, the KCFF, and it was very fun. And it was also extremely cold. Unfortunately, it was the coldest day of the year. Oops. I thought I shut my phone off. That's not good. That's embarrassing. There we go. That's what happens when things are live. And so you never know where those gifts can come from. And also, you can be, one of my favorite quotes from Robert Ohado is, live as if you're the answer to somebody else's prayer. So be kind and follow your instincts. If you get the feeling, oh, I should call so-and-so today, call them. That was probably a mental text from them twigging you to phone them. Oh, I have some extra banana bread that I baked. I should take it over to the neighbor. Yes, you should take it over to the neighbor. They probably love that. And how many times have you done something for somebody and they've said, oh, I really needed to hear that. I was really wanting I'm so glad you live as if you're the answer to somebody else's prayer. Right? And gifts is a great way to have abundance. And, when we hear gifts, we think birthday, Mother's Day, because Mother's Day just passed. Father's Day is coming up. We think Christmas or Hanukkah, where there's people show up. I don't know about the gift giving. I'm not informed enough about Kwanzaa to know if there's gifts, but you go to somebody's house, you always bring the hostess a gift, right? There's certain times gifts are part of the expectation. But when we're talking about abundance here in this format, we're talking about the gifts that are unsolicited and just part of the flow of abundance. Then we had a trade. When I talked about at the beginning, that's what we used to do before we agreed on what money was, right? People would trade and barter, and more we're getting to that. And we're getting a little closer now. Money is still exchanged, but things like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, what's the other one? Poshmark. People are taking their things and they're selling them. It used to be a flea market. We'd go to the flea market or the thrift store, right? We're still trading money, but it's a lot less money for similar things. Love thrifting. Always go when there's a half price sale. And so trading, there's a lot of I know new moms, they'll have clothing exchanges. Your kids are outgrowing their things and they need bigger sizes, so the moms will come get together. Some of these parenting groups, I shouldn't just say moms, dads too, come and they'll trade the kids' clothes to save money, because usually kids grow out of the clothes faster than they wear them out. So they'll get a second life and you don't have to buy. So there's lots of ways to trade, right? We can trade time. We can trade, similar to gifts, trade time, trade knowledge, trade skills. There's lots of things neighbors can do for each other, right? I remember George said there used to be a really an elderly lady that lived at the end of the road. Unfortunately, she's passed now. But when he first moved in, he would go and help her take care of her yard because she was in her 90s. And she always made him soup. No matter what time of year it was, she always made soup. And he said, oh, some of the best soup. And so that was a great trade. He was really happy with the homemade food, and she was very happy to have her yard done by, a young strapping man when he moved into the neighborhood. So, there's that kind of thing has been going on for a long time, and it builds community. And I think as time goes on, it's one of the things that seems to be happening is more and more and more we're heading towards being more of a community and connecting with our neighbors and doing things. There's a lot of community gardens that are popping up, right? So we're sharing land, that kind of thing. Now, the next two are kind of your ethereal. I hope that's the right word. Here's a good thing. Kay said, the person who turned up twice was for a friend to fix his wall. The quote was $3,000 less than the other quote. Also done it with friends, getting homes, relationships, health. Good. Yeah. It's in that. And it always feels better too, right? It just feels better. There's community involved there and there's connection. And let's see. So I was saying the first one's ideas. So sometimes I call it the Zen of raking. And there's that old quote, what do you do before enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. What do you do after enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. It doesn't change if you're human. So sometimes ideas will come to you. A lot of times people say they'll get their best ideas when they're keeping like their hands busy. So that's why it's the Zen of raking. If you're washing dishes, if you're gardening, if you're just taking a shower, how many people say their best ideas come in the shower? Jack Canfield had that idea, right? He has a famous story about how he wanted to manifest a lot of money. And he had a coach that said, I want you to make a goal so big and audacious that when you accomplish it, you'll know that it's the work we've been doing. And he was a teacher. And at the time he was making $35,000. So he made the goal $100,000. He said, there's no way I can make $100,000 in a year. So I'm going to make that my, big, hairy, audacious goal. And so he did. He took a big green piece of green Bristol board, drew it to look like $100,000 bill, and put it on his ceiling in his bedroom. And that's important because there's something called the hypnagogic state. And it's just before you wake up and it's just as you fall asleep. It almost like the veil thins between your conscious and subconscious mind. So you impress ideas on your subconscious mind. So when he was waking up, he'd lie in bed and he'd see this $100,000 bill on his ceiling, and that would impress on his goal. And he said he focused on this goal for weeks and nothing happened. And then one day in the shower, he had an idea. He realized that he wrote a little book, almost like a booklet. And he thought, so you can tell how long ago this was. If I sell those for $0.25 a piece, I can, if I sell 400,000 of those at $0.25 a piece, I'll make $100,000. So that's an idea. Is it a good idea? Who knows? So he followed the breadcrumbs. That's the other thing. You got to keep following it, the string, right? You get the idea, pull on the string. And then he thought, well, where could I sell that many books? I don't know. So he was letting that ruminate. And then he went to the grocery store and he saw the National Enquirer. He saw the Reader's Digest first on the checkout stand. So when magazines were big, remember, this is probably in the 70s, I think. So he took one and he called them to ask for advertising, and because they used to have ads at the back and the rate was way too high. And he thought, okay, so that's not right. And then the next week he was there and he also saw the National Enquirer. And he's like, oh, they even have more readers than Reader's Digest. Maybe I could do them. He gets that, calls them, still too expensive. Because he thought, if I can get in there, I could sell enough. And then he said, he put that aside. And then he was giving a speech somewhere. And afterwards, someone came to him and said, excuse me, could I interview you? And he said, who do you work for? And she says, well, I freelance, but I mostly write for the National Enquirer. And he said, he just heard the Twilight Zone music in his head, like do, 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 do. He couldn't have put that together, but he put the energy out there. And he did all kinds of things over a year. And he said they made like $96,000 for the year. And he said, was he disappointed that he didn't make the 100? He said, no, he was just blown away by all the different things that occurred, because that's what he was focusing on. And things came from all different places, right? Basically, all these forms of synchronicity that I made notes on. But he said a week later, then it really hit him. Oh my gosh, I could have made the goal $1 million. But it was past his point of believability, right? He could barely believe 100,000. There was no way he was ever going to meet $1 million. I think if he had set it at $1 million, he wouldn't have even busted. Like, he might have made 40 or 50. He wouldn't have got close to 100, because $1 million would have been so high that he couldn't have reached it. Because you can only stretch, so far. And then once you get to the new level, then you can go up. I think that's what helps a lot of people. Instead of trying to go from 0 to $1 million, if you go to 100,000 to start, it's much easier, right? It's like going to the gym. You don't just go in there and start bench pressing 300. You start with the 10-pound weights, and then the 20-pound weights, and then 50, and then you build yourself up. It's the same way. It's easier if you can do it building yourself up. Oh, look, somebody put $1 million bill on a fireplace. Putting it in the bedroom now. Yeah, hypnagogic state. Go find any of Mitch Horowitz's work. He's fantastic, because he did Neville Goddard, just like I'm updating and redoing Helene Hansel. He's been updating and redoing Neville Goddard. Cool. And he's very fascinating to listen to. He did some great interviews on Inspire Nation and some other people. Actually, he also did a great interview with one of my favorite podcasters, Wendy Garrett, who has Wendy's Coffee House Curious. I highly recommend that one. Every episode is strange and wonderful. So that was ideas. So you don't dismiss ideas, right? And sometimes you get an idea and you don't know what the next step is. I remember getting the idea for before my first book, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I thought, okay, I equated it to a puzzle piece. I knew I had one piece to a puzzle, but I didn't have enough pieces to put together to start to see the picture. So I had to wait till I had a few more pieces, and then I ended up starting to write my book. Yeah, thanks. She's got the Neville Bible. Thanks for the recommendations. It's really cool to listen to Mitch, because he gives a more modern interpretation, which is kind of cool, because, Neville's was teaching 100 years ago, right? Like crazy. And so it's really neat to see the changes. And the last one is synchronicities. Now, this one is my favorite, because I think we brush these off. We either think, oh, that's amazing. Like you think, oh, I haven't heard from Bob in a while. And 5 minutes later, the phone rings and it's Bob. What? We've had those. Or I remember Michael Loge, who wrote The Law of Attraction, and he had a great story one time. I don't remember if this is one's in his book or he told it in an interview, but he decided that when he traveled, he wanted to start taking a blender with him so he could have protein shakes on the road, because when you travel, you tend to eat a lot more, and he wanted to stick to his healthier regime. So at least if he had, his protein shakes and things like that in the morning when he was traveling. So NutriBullets had just come out, but he didn't have anywhere he lived. He didn't see any. And he thought, oh, I could really use something, to take with me on the road. So his first idea was, I'd really like to take a blender on the road with me so I could stay on my health regime. I wonder how I can do that, because he had just, a regular big blender at home. And then he had the TV on in the background, and then he saw a commercial for a NutriBullet, but it was only in the United States. He lives in Canada. And he checked it out. They didn't ship to Canada. He's like, okay. Then, I don't know how many days later, he was in the drugstore. There's a place called London Drugs, but they sell everything. It's kind of like a Walmart, a drugstore with a Walmart attached to it, pretty much. And he was making his purchases, and he could hear these two ladies in front of him talking about using one of these things to make baby food. And he interrupted their conversation and said, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to overhear, but I've been wanting one of those to take traveling because they're small and portable. How did you get one here?" And she said, "Oh, they sell them in the other section in that store, and they're even on sale right now." He was like, "What?" And off he toddled and got his, portable blender, and he was so happy. So he had this idea, and things started showing up. Now, he said every time he got another piece to the puzzle, so to speak, or he pulled on the string, he knew he was getting closer to the manifestation because he was seeing synchronicities. He saw the advertisement. He overheard the ladies talking. He was also bold enough to speak up, right? And then in the end, he had what he wanted. So you have to kind of, follow the threads. Oh my goodness, look at that. I wanted a $300 300-pound bread maker, found it in a charity shop for $15 with 3 extra paddles, and they're $50. So yeah, I love it. Well, that's how I got all the books to start giving away, because I had the idea that it was time for me to start doing giveaways here, because I've had it for a while. I thought, no, I need to start doing giveaways here on Words for Winning, just like I do on Contest Queen, because every time I do a Contest Queen live stream, when I have, depending, if I'm interviewing somebody, I may be giving away something from them, or if I'm doing my sweepstakes Q&As, I give away books. And because people are always asking me, how do we get your books for free? And I say, I give them away. So come and enter. And I also give away a sweepstakes masterclass every month on Contest Queen. So people can spend an hour or two with me learning. And we go over the hurdles that group has. So every sweepstakes masterclass is different because it depends on the questions and the struggles of the particular attendees. So I don't record them, and you just have to come to the class, and you can win more than once. I've had people enter. It goes the second of every month. And so I thought, I want to start bringing some of that winning energy, because it is called Words for Winning after all. I want to start bringing some of that here. And I thought, what do I want to give away? And sure enough, I found 10 books to give away, and 2 copies of Think and Grow Rich. So we're going to start with that one because it is a classic, and I love that it's vintage. Some people love getting the older versions because they just have a nice feel to them. And I mean, the pages are even creamy, like they're faded. I love it. And it really is what they call a pocketbook. This is pocketbook size that they call them. There's different standard dimensions for printed books, and this is one of them. This is pocket size, what they call it. And originally this sold in the US for $5.99. It was $5.99 in 1963. And a whopping $6.99 in Canada. It says right on the and this book could be worth $1 billion to you. So if you win or make $1 million after reading the book that you won from me, I have to know. And it could be that's your sign, your synchronicity, your idea. You never know. And I really like how Bashar talks about these other forms of abundance, because I think we just get so focused on money that we forget that there's all other types of forms of abundance. Like today, we went and planted more in our garden. We actually doubled the size of our garden this year. And so we just finally got some seeds in, probably a little late, but put them in nonetheless. And I bought some lettuce and spinach. And of course, we have bunnies living under our shed. And sure enough, I kept checking. And then one of the poor lettuces got chawed down. I said, oh, I made a bunny buffet. So we covered them up. And I need to get some bottles to put over the celery. Poor bunnies. So funny. I'm just blocking them. Yeah, there's so many forms of abundance and fun and adventures out there. I mean, that's why I think Helene was so successful, because she just focused on the end result. That's really the key. And you don't worry about the how. Mike Dooley always says the how is the domain of the universe. One of my favorite quotes from him, because he's so right. Don't worry about the how, because usually it comes about in a way that you could never have fathomed in a million years. Never have fathomed in a million years. And I'm just going to check here to see if there was any questions from anybody on my Instagram. And that's awesome. I can't even see my own live to see if anybody had posted any questions there. All righty then. Okay, well, I use StreamYard, and it won't pull in the questions. And I discovered that last time when I went to shut it down. And I was embarrassed to find out there had been a bunch of questions from people, but I can't even see them. I guess if I turned the sound off on my phone, I could have checked my phone from another account. But anyway, that's the problem when you're pulling in data from so many different places and you're learning, and then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know what to do about that. But anyway, go do some Googling on Bashar and Daryl Anka. He's got some great interviews. Some where he's channeling Bashar. I've actually shared some where he talks about winning the lottery, which is really a lot of fun. And you can listen to him. But he's got some great interviews. I liked him on Next Level Soul. He was very good. And in the meantime, stay tuned as I'm coming out with more books on abundance. I'm coming out with the Spanish edition of Confessions of an 83-Year-Old Sage. I'm working on getting another audio series by Tag Powell out, The Master Keys to Persuasion. I'm working on the Audible edition of Money and You. And I'm working on a sweepstakes book called Prizes, Prizes Everywhere. And thankfully, I have finally hired an assistant. So hopefully all those projects will be out sooner rather than later. So yes, my plate is very abundant with projects. And as Helene always said, she never called anything in her life a problem or a challenge or an obstacle. She always said, I've got a project, which is a great way to frame it. Because when you're working on a project, there's always parts to it. And there's always an end result. And yeah, oh, I love this. Love that you're enjoying the life you gave yourself. Thanks. Sometimes I want to scream when you're working with some of the different programs. Today, I was very frustrated with Kindle Create and Ingram Spark as I'm trying to expand accessibility to the books. Some of them aren't working. But I know in the end, they will all be there. They will all work. And people will have greater access to Helene's work and Tag's work and my work in time. It's just a matter of when, not if. but I'm going through the process of learning. That's my project right now. And in the meantime, take a look at your week and watch which of the 5 forms of abundance show up for you. Money, or maybe all 5 show up for you. Money, gifts, trade, ideas, and synchronicities. And I love finding money on the ground. I've had people say, one of the ideas is to have the energy of money around you and to have a jar of money. And I've had people say to me in the past, hey, I don't have any money to even put in a jar. What do I do? And I said, make it a fairy fund. Every time you find coins on the ground, pick them up and put them in there. Like, I even put money from anywhere that's not like income. So if I'm doing the laundry and George has left change in his pocket and I find it at the bottom of the washing machine, it goes in the fairy fund jar. I've been traveling and I have found pesos and different coins from different countries. If I find them, they go in there. So there's all kinds of currencies in my fairy fund. And it's a really fun way to keep the energy of money around you, and know that Spirit is looking out for you and showing you that your life really is full of abundance in all ways, even little amounts. Go check out, there was a Lewis Howe interview about this where he decided he was going to focus on abundance and money was coming to him in all kinds of ways. And he found a penny and he picked it up and he put it in his pocket and he's feeling pretty good. And then later that day, he saw another penny, but it was on the subway in New York and it was disgusting. It was like really gross. And he didn't want to pick it up. And he said, well, you said you want to do this experiment for abundance, so you better pick it up. So he picked it up, put it in his pocket. And then when he got back to his hotel, he put all the change that he had in his pockets on the nightstand. And he looked, in that really dirty penny, he could see that it said 1960. Or was it 1940? It was a very old penny. And he said, oh, you don't see pennies that old that often. And he flipped it over and it had 2 wheat chiefs on it. So he Googled it. And that particular penny was rare and it was worth like $4,700. And he left it on the ground, but he picked it up. So you don't know how things can work out. So just, there's, I had an hour and a half walk home and I asked for the money for a taxi and boom, found it on the floor with enough left for a treat. Yeah, I heard one, I don't know, this guy who was being interviewed and he said he was hitchhiking through Europe when he was young and he thought, he was playing the game. He thought, I'd love, like for a white Mercedes to like pick me up to take me to this city and give me lunch because I'm hungry. And I don't know how long it took. I can't remember the time frame, but a white Mercedes stopped and asked him if he needed a lift. And he said, yeah, he was young and traveling and he needed a lift. And they said, oh, I just had lunch. I have some extra sandwiches. Did you want one? So he sat in this Mercedes and he had a sandwich as he got driven to his city. It literally just showed up. And I think that fellow was interviewed. He was stuck on something. I think he was in the hot seat from Esther and Jerry Hicks when she was channeling Abraham, and he was asking Abraham, and he said he was very good at manifesting stuff because the other thing he did, he said one time he remembered looking at a building and thinking to himself, that building, there needs to be a window there. And then the next time he saw that building, I don't know how long it was, there was a window had been put in. And he said he was just really good at manifesting that stuff. I think it's Yogananda was really good at it. He was in the United States. This was, I think, in the 20s, like 100 years ago. And they were taking him around. He was in a car, and they were taking him around to show him spots that would be really good for the ashram and the center that they wanted to build. And they found a lot, and he said, I can't look because if I look, it'll be there. And they're like, no, it's perfect. And they made him look, and it ended up getting built there. So it is. It's a game. Yes, that's the secret. It's a game. Enjoy it. It's fun. Be unbothered as much as possible. I do. And then today I felt like screaming while I was struggling with this software. But part of it is I can laugh at myself. And it's also why I'm so good at publishing the books, because I've gone through all the hurdles and I can help other people. When they ask me, I say, okay, if you're going to do this, be careful of that. If you're going to do this, do that. It's easy to do this. Make sure you do that. And I've paved the way. I have been told I have the pioneer archetype, and the pioneers tend to have the arrows in their back because they go down the path first to make it easy for others. And that's okay, because that's part of my journey and part of the game. And I enjoy, and I do love learning. As frustrating as it is at times, I do love learning. And I think I must have the student archetype. But I'm going to wrap that up for now. So keep your eye out for all forms of abundance in your life. You'll be amazed at how abundant you actually are. And if you want to hear more from me, because I'm going to be, now that I have an assistant to keep me on track, we're going to be doing more of these chats, and I'm going to work on getting more interviews. So like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. And if you go over to Words for Winning, I created, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get a free 15-minute spec style meditation that I recorded. And so and that's absolutely free. So I hope you enjoy that. And until next time, happy winning in all areas of your life.